Faux leather makes for some awesome Christmas ornaments, and I'm going to cut it on my Cricut Joy to show you that you can use any one of your Cricut machines for this project. My name is Kelly Rossouw, and let's get clacking. We're going to start off in Cricut Design Space on the home page, and because it's Christmas season, they've already started populating it with some very fun graphics for us to use. I really like this snowflake, so I'm going to hit Add to Canvas, and I don't have to search for anything further. It will then show that it is added to my canvas, and I can either click View before the pop-up disappears, or I can click Canvas in the top left-hand side of my screen. Once on my canvas, I'm going to resize it to an approximate size that we might want to use. And this is the section that I'm going to cut out of white glitter iron-on, or HTV, and apply it onto the nice fun blue faux leather that we have. So I'm going to click offset so that we have something to put it onto, and I'm going to look at the actual size of the offset. Now I might want to make it just a little bit bigger, and once you're happy with the size of the offset, hit apply. Now is where you want to resize your ornament to be whatever size you actually want it to be on your tree. 9.28 centimeters for me it might be a little bit on the big side, but I think it should be just fine. But you can always measure it out before you cut to make sure that it's going to be right for you. Now next we need a way to hang it up onto the Christmas tree. So we need to insert a hole into the offset somewhere. If we try and insert the hole at the top here, we're going to cover up a little section of the snowflake. So rather than doing that, I'm going to rotate the snowflake so that we can place the hole somewhere here, or maybe even a little bit lower down. I'm going to then hit Shapes and add in a circle. I'm going to reduce the size of the circle to being around 0.6 centimeters. I'm then going to click on the circle and drag it somewhere onto the canvas that makes sense. And I'm going to zoom in so that I can see much better at what I'm working with. And I'm going to position the circle somewhere that it doesn't overlap on the actual snowflake itself. And once I've got the positioning right, I'm going to select the circle, hold down Shift on my keyboard, and select the offset of the snowflake. So now that I have just those two layers selected, I'm going to hit Slice. And if Slice is grayed out, that's because you either have more or less than 2 layers selected, as you can only slice with 2 layers. And once I've hit Slice, I'm going to select the offset of the snowflake, right click and send it to the back so that we can see what it's going to look like. I'm then going to delete the 2 little circles out of my slice results so that we can see the gap for where we're going to feed in our ribbon. If you want to change the colors of your layers, you absolutely can to get a better idea of what it's going to look like. So the offset of the snowflake, I'm going to select that one, click on the gray block, and change that one to a bluish color. And the snowflake section, I'm going to click on that, click on the little black block, and change that one to white. So it's a little bit of a better idea of what it's going to look like, but it might look a little bit different. I'm then going to hit Save on my project so that I don't lose it and that you guys have access to it if you want to make one. And I'm going to save it as Faux Christmas Ornament. And once it has saved, I'm going to make sure that my machine selection is set to my Cricut Joy, and I'm going to hit Make It. Now I will be cutting this out of iron-on, so even though this design looks like it might be symmetrical, it's a much better idea to get into the habit of always selecting mirror on layers where you are actually going to cut it out of iron-on. Because there'll be that one time that you don't and then you mess up a project. I'm then going to go to the faux leather layer, and this is not going to be cut matless. We actually need to cut this on a mat. So I'm going to change the material load type from without a mat, and I'm going to change it to on a mat. And with the first layer selected, I'm going to hit continue. With it connected to my Joy, I'm going to search for the material that I'm going to use, which is going to be Smart Vinyl Glitter Iron-On. So once I have that selected, I'm going to load up the Smart Iron-On into my Joy and cut that out. When it comes to cutting the faux leather section, you may need to click on Browse All Materials, and under the drop down, you can click on fabric, and you may be able to cut it with the faux leather paper thin setting. If that setting doesn't work for your faux leather, as some faux leathers are thicker than others, then you may need to try medium cardstock. I find that has worked for me in the past, but please make sure to do your test cuts before you cut an entire section of faux leather on your machine, regardless of what machine you have, as you definitely don't want to waste an entire page and then it's not cut properly. So once you've selected the faux leather and maybe even bookmarked it, you can click done. And because I only want to do one side of this on the actual front, which you absolutely can do double-sided if you want, I want to put some iron-on covering the back section of this faux leather just to make it a little bit different. So I'm going to measure off the size of the actual faux leather on my design, which is around a 4-inch block. So I'm going to cut it at just over 4 inches and then just cut it down to size. I'm going to cut my HTV down to size as well and turn on my mini press so that it's on the lowest heat setting and wait for that one to warm up. While it warms up, if you enjoy faux leather projects, my friend Amy Romeo is having a Faux La La festive event where she's going to be taking you through 40 different projects. Yes, 40. It is incredible. I'm so excited for this event and very excited to be sharing it with you. So if you want to take part in this free event where you can get 40 different tutorials, designs, SVG files for all kinds of faux leather crafts, check out the link in the description. She really has put her heart and soul into this, and it makes me so happy to see how amazing her event has turned out, and I'm so excited for you guys to enjoy it as well. And I cannot wait to see what you create. So now that the Cricut Easy Press has warmed up with the light that is now green, we are going to press it onto the actual faux leather, onto the backing of the faux leather. I've placed the non-color side down onto the faux, placed a Teflon sheet over that, and I'm going to use my Easy Press to just gently move it and press it onto the actual faux leather. You want to hold it on for about 10 seconds or so in each area, and we don't have to use a crazy amount of pressure here. And once you've done that, we're going to place our Easy Press back into the holder. Let it cool off just a little bit by putting it onto a cold surface. And then very carefully removing the clear carrier sheet on top of the HTV or the iron-on, trying to keep it as level as possible. And of course you can use whatever color you want. You don't have to use this one. I just had a nice piece of scrap lying around. You should be able to see a little bit of texture from the faux underneath it, and if you don't quite see the texture, you can just lightly press on it again for another few seconds. And there we go. We've got a little bit more texture coming through, so we can let that cool down on a cool surface. And once it's cool, we can load it onto our standard grip mat. And you want to load this with the faux or the colored side facing down. Put it right up into the corner. Press it down well. Make sure that this is quite a sticky mat, as you want as much grip as possible. We're then going to open up our Joy, load in our mat, and let it cut. Before we get too excited about unloading our mats, we always want to make sure that we check the cut before we unload it. So we're going to lift up a corner of the faux, and there you can see it has beautifully cut through the faux leather. So we're going to press unload on our computers or on our devices. And we can then remove our faux from the mat. And then we see we have a nice big faux section with some pretty foil on the back. But if you notice, just on the edges look a little bit rough. And that's because of the blade, because it drags through. So what we want to do, place our faux leather on our heat resistant mat, cover it with Teflon again, and then just lightly press on the edges so we can smooth out that ragged edge. And we can see how it is perfectly smoothed out that ragged edge. So now we don't have to worry about that. And of course we want to cool it down again once it's been heated. I'm also going to trim off any excess glitter iron-on so we can maybe use those on another project. And use my weeding tool to remove the excess of the glitter. So we are just left with the snowflake. Now we are going to flip our snowflake over and line it up onto the faux leather. Now you want to try and get an even distribution of faux leather all the way around the snowflake. You want it to look pretty much exactly like how we had it in Design Space. So you want to try and wiggle it around backwards and forwards until you get the right dimensions or the right layering. And once you are confident that you have it right, we're going to place our piece of Teflon over, and we're once again going to use our Easy Press Mini and press it down and hold it for a few seconds. Move on to a new section, hold that there for a few seconds. We don't need to apply too much pressure. This is not like t-shirts where you need to have lots of pressure. We just need the glue to melt a little bit. And once you're done, we can remove the Teflon, place it upside down on something cold to remove the heat, as this is a cold peel. And once it is all cool, we can start seeing if it will remove. So we can lift up the carrier sheet. And I see some sections where it hasn't quite stuck down. So if that happens, no problem. We can just heat it a little bit again. So we'll press it down, give it another few seconds, because maybe we didn't do enough the first time. There's no timer, so you kind of have to eyeball this yourself. And then we want to once again just cool it down. And then we can try and remove the HTV carrier sheet again. And that looks like it lifted off beautifully. So we have our faux leather with our shiny, glittery snowflake on top of it. And these are the things that I like to use my glitter iron-on for, especially the Cricut brand, as it's far too rough for me to use on clothing. So these kinds of uses are perfect. And you can add some ribbon on to style these and hang them on your Christmas tree and make it look absolutely beautiful. But if you want to know how to apply HTV onto cardstock, check out this video here. And I look forward to seeing you in Amy Romeo's Faux La La Cricut Crafting Holiday event. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos in the future, and remember, be kind to someone today. See you soon.